Thanks for joining me today as we talk about proactive management pack tuning with the MP Viewer for System Center 2012 Operations Manager. My name is Pete Zerger. I'm a managing principal consultant for Infront Consulting Group, Microsoft MVP in the System Center Cloud and Data Center space, and co-founder and blogger over at SystemCenterCentral.com. So when I say proactive management pack tuning with MP Viewer, what I'm really talking about is management pack tuning before we ever touch a live management group. So everything I'm going to share with you today, and I think I'm going to have at least one little tidbit for you, regardless of your level of experience with Operations Manager. If you started yesterday or you started 3 or 4 years ago, I think maybe there's at least one tidbit I hope to share with you in the next 10 to 15 minutes that will help you tune management packs more effectively using the MP Viewer as one of those elements in your tool set for optimizing your monitoring and alerting for any application for which you have a management pack or a monitoring pack, as we more commonly now call them. So in my demonstration here, I'm working on my management workstation where I run my Operations Manager console, sometimes develop management packs. So I have the Operations console loaded. I have an Operations Manager agent installed that gives me the Operations Manager event log, though not relevant for this discussion. A nice to have for administrators in general. It's a good idea to have Excel 2010 or later loaded so we can leverage some of the outputs of the MP Viewer. An XML editor is handy, but entirely optional. We'll actually look at how we can view some of the outputs of the MP Viewer with Internet Explorer if you're XML averse or just don't have an editor loaded. And a strategy that incorporates MP Viewer in the way I'm going to show you is there are several benefits in the end. I think maybe the most important is that you can have a good understanding of what is discovered and monitored by default, as well as what's not discovered and monitored by default. You're going to gain some insight beyond what's available in the operations console. We're going to be able to see with the MP Viewer some elements under the hood, so to speak, in these monitoring packs. We're going to have some export and formatting options you may or may not be familiar with, and in the latest incarnation of the tool there is some new functionality I want to show you that will facilitate deeper investigation, but also easy sharing of information and configuration settings within these monitoring packs with application owners that are perhaps not operations manager experts. It's really important when we're tuning management packs to meet our application owners and stakeholders where they live, which is not in the operations console. And we're going to do all of this without a live management group. So there's a lot we can gain in terms of insight and understanding before we ever touch a live management group. So I'm going to go over to my folder where I keep some of my management pack, some of my System Center tools, and you'll see I have the MP Viewer here, which I've downloaded from Daniela's website. It has one menu, which is the file menu, so it's pretty easy to sort out. And I'm going to look at the SQL 2008 monitoring pack with you today. So monitoring packs have dependencies defined within them, and what I mean by that is some monitoring packs depend on certain other monitoring packs. So let's just begin with the library pack for SQL. Typically when you see a pack that has library in the name, that means that's where the base classes are defined. And so for all of our SQL versions that would be relevant today, 2005, 2008, 2012, many of those are going to derive from some of the base classes defined in the SQL library pack, where we'll find a lot of what we call abstract classes. You'll notice I see I see familiar SQL components in here, like SQL Database Engine, which is another term for a SQL instance. We see agents, we see agent jobs, we see databases, we see the database file contained as part of that database. Since this is a library pack, we're defining classes. You'll notice that I see over here in the navigation pane of my MP Viewer, many of the elements that we see in our operations console in the authoring space, the inner components of the monitoring pack, and a few that maybe you don't see in the the operations console, at least directly in that authoring space. So let's take a step and look at the discovery um, pack for SQL Server 2008. These are a match set. So I mentioned there are some dependencies, and what you'll find in the discovery pack is the discovery pack depends on the library pack. So I can see here that there's some dependency on some other libraries. Most of these are loaded, a lot of these are loaded automatically when Operations Manager is installed. That SQL library pack comes with your SQL management pack. But I can see all of the dependencies that show up in the manifest within the management pack right here. So since my library pack had a lot of abstract classes, I'm guessing that I'm going to find some version-specific types of SQL objects. So I've mentioned classes, I've mentioned types, and you'll see right here target. Uh, Probably important for me to call out that class, type, and target are actually three terms that all mean the same thing. It's a type of object, a class. Um, and to put that in the form of an example, I will find a SQL discovery for a SQL agent, and SQL agent is the class. And when we find a particular occurrence of that SQL agent out on a live computer in the live environment, that would be an instance of the class. But I see we have some discoveries here that are specific to SQL 2008. Now, one of the neat features about the MP Viewer is these columns are all sortable. I can sort them, alphabetically. What I like is this enabled column because I can sort my enabled with the value of false to the top. These are the discoveries that are disabled by default. So I mentioned it's great with the MP Viewer that we can understand what's monitored by default, but also what's not monitored by default. So have a look at what we don't get here. We're not going to enable replication, some replication component discovery out of the box. SQL mirroring and log shipping, replication is something we don't all do by default, so maybe these aren't necessary. SQL agent jobs would be relevant for discovering the agent jobs as a type of object. Now, as what I will tell you is that the SQL management pack by default is in fact going to tell you important things such as when a job fails, like a SQL backup fails as part of a maintenance plan. What it's not going to do is discover those jobs as instances of a class, so they're at that point stateful. What the default agent job monitoring is going to do is just scrape that event out of the application event log that's there by default. So maybe this is important to you, but maybe it's not. So, but this is the first, the first of many important pieces of discovery I find here. So I see that SQL agent jobs is not enabled by default. So what am I going to lose if I don't enable this? Well, I can see that by jumping over into the monitoring element of the SQL management pack. So I'm going to open up the SQL 2008 monitoring MP. And again, I'm going to use that sorting capability in my console. I'm going to come over here to the unit monitors, which are the monitor type that does the heavy lifting, so to speak. And I'm going to sort my targets so I can find the SQL Server 2008 agent job class. So what I can see is if I don't enable that discovery to discover agent jobs as instances of a class, I'm going to lose all of this monitoring that targets that class. In this case, there's a last run status that will basically light this this element up as red, yellow, green based on the last run status of the job, and there's also a job duration. This is incidentally looking for long running jobs. It's going to be looking for jobs running an hour to 2 hours for warning and critical thresholds. I have that same capability to look at the knowledge here so I can read what the monitor does. If I flip over to the raw XML, sometimes you're going to find when you look at the raw XML tab here, you're going to gain some insight into how the monitor works. Sometimes we'll be able to clearly see that we're looking at a registry-based discovery or a script-based discovery. In this case, I don't quite see. That's actually because under the all I see here are some what we call XPath replacement variables, which is this funky syntax you see here with the dollar signs in the end. So I can't fully see what's going on there yet, and we'll get to how we get around that to go another layer deeper in just a moment. But I know off the top of my head from working with the SQL monitoring pack for a long time that there is in fact a monitor in here that tells me, if jobs fail or succeed. If a job fails and I need to go look at something. So for me, I'm really going to leave enabling that discovery of the agent job class based on whether my DBAs are interested in knowing about job duration. If they do in fact have some jobs that tend to run long and they would like to turn those on. I find there's not really one right answer for this particular case, but I wanted to just give you a clear example of of some of the insight we can garner by looking at the management pack from the MP Viewer. Now I'm going to go back to my discovery pack for a minute, and I'm going to sort my targets here. I'm going to find the discoveries targeted to the Windows Server Computer class. These are some of the discoveries that happen earlier in the process, because I can see these discoveries have different targets. That's my tip off that discovery is a layered process with SQL Server. We're not going to discover every piece of SQL monitoring from the specific discovery, and I may well not even be looking at the latest version of the SQL pack here. You want to make sure that you've got the latest version of the pack, because discovery can change over time. But when I highlight one of these discoveries, I can look down here and have a look at what's happening under the hood in this discovery. Sometimes I don't see anything revealing. I almost always see something that will tell me about how often a discovery runs just by looking at the frequency tab, which also shows up here in the raw XML in that interval seconds area. But if there's a registry-based discovery, if there's a script that's being run to discover monitoring, a lot of times you're going to find that down here in the raw XML. So you want to make sure that you have a look here to see what's going on behind the scenes. So I happen to be looking at something here that's not at all intuitive in terms of telling me what it can what's happening under the hood in terms of registry or event based or script based. But you see here it mentions data source ID. That's the very reason I can't discover what's going on there, because this discovery is wrapped in a data source. That's where the MP Viewer comes in really handy with the Unseal Management Pack option. So I'll hit the Unseal option here, and I'll just pick my Downloads folder, and this will unseal the pack, again, without a live management group. I'm not connected to my live environment. I'm doing all of this. This is pre-work I'm doing, so to speak. And here you'll find the SQL pack that I just unpacked. I just unsealed, so to speak. And I'm going to open it up in Internet Explorer. So truly you could use an XML editor to very effectively take apart your monitoring pack to do searching. But unless you're an XML guru that has specific need for all of that, you can find a lot about a monitoring pack right here in Internet Explorer, and it's going to be very much searchable. So I can search on, say, the term discovery. Always important that you spell discovery right. And if I put a little caret on the end there, it's going to take me down to the discovery area, so I can see some of what's going on in the discovery area of this pack, and I can kind of scroll through, see what the discoveries are. But as I scroll down through here, I'll begin to see things that I didn't see before. So within this data source, for example, I see some information that's beginning to reveal things like WMI queries. If I scroll down and look a little further, I'll find, no doubt, some scripts in here. In fact, if you want to see what scripts are in a management pack, you really have to do little more than just search on VBS. There's that Discover SQL Database Engine that is a VB script. And I don't see this I certainly don't see this in the Operations Console. I don't even see it in the MP Viewer because it's wrapped in the data source. But by using the MP Viewer, I was able to unseal that monitoring pack and get into the depths of this monitoring pack. And I'm not a developer, so do I know a little bit of .NET code? Sure I do, through painful experience and testing. But I'm certainly just an IT pro, like many of you. So MP Viewer is a great equalizer in that respect. So the next job really comes in the nuts and bolts of the tuning process, on a proactive basis by talking to my application owners. And MP Viewer is a great tool, but at the end of the day, my application owners are not operations manager experts. They may not even be intending to use the console. I might work with them purely by email. They're certainly not going to use MP Viewer to tune this pack with me. And that's where the MP Viewer gives me capability to meet those users in a comfortable interface by saving these monitoring packs out to Excel. So when I save a pack out to Excel, it's literally going to save it out to an Excel friendly XML format, which I can then open in Excel, and it's going to give me a workbook that contains a worksheet for each of these nodes in the navigation pane of my pack. So we're looking here at the Sequel 2008 monitoring pack. This is the one I'm probably going to spend the most time in with my owners. But I can I can gather them all up in a room with a projector, and we can do a bit of looking before we even get into the console right here. I'm going to an Excel. I'm going to go over to the Data tab. I'm going to hit the Filter option, which is going to give me some sortability. So I can now filter out what's disabled by default, for example. I can begin to have some serious discussions about what's on and off by default, what some of my default thresholds are, to really get a sense and to give a sense to my application owners when they're going to get alerts, so they can give me some guidance on what what's warning and what's critical in their environment, where they would like to get emails versus what they would like to see in the console. Um, and just on a side note, always bear in mind that your application owners, like a SQL DBA, is probably only going to, he might only want to be alerted on SQL specific error messages, but when he gets into the operations console, you can bet they're going to want to see errors related to the Windows operating system, to the hardware, to help them get down to the root cause of their alerts related to SQL or whatever application it is they're on. So the lesson to be learned there is don't assume there's a one-to-one relationship between the alerts someone wants to see and the information they're going to need in order to actually solve, get down to the root cause of that monitoring challenge. So that is a brief look at some of the capabilities and benefits that you can derive from the MP Viewer for Operations Manager. For in-depth System Center training on any of the components in the 2012 family, come visit us over at infrontconsulting.com or visit me out in the community at systemcentercentral.com. Thanks for your time.